Ruby the bunny invited her neighbors Tommy, Mr. Giggles, Barbara Bear, and Miss Candace over for a tea party. Ruby wanted to look her best for the occasion, and so she dressed up and wore her grandmother's diamond bracelet. Even though Ruby did her best to make everything perfect, things still didn't go the way she planned. During the tea party, she laughed so hard that she spilled tea all over herself. So she quickly removed the diamond bracelet so that it wouldn't get dirty and ran off to get herself washed up. However, when she came back, she noticed that the diamond bracelet was missing. Ruby panicked and immediately called the police, who then proceeded to investigate the crime scene. They found a piece of hair left in the same spot where the bracelet was last seen, and they decided to analyze the DNA on the hair. The DNA sample was amplified for 2 different VNTR loci and were run on 2 separate gels to create DNA fingerprints. The suspects were the 4 guests that attended Ruby's tea party. Using the DNA fingerprinting analysis, the police will be able to determine who the real thief in this tea party was, based on whose DNA bands matched all the DNA bands of the hair sample at both VNTR loci. We will first analyze the victim's bands to make sure that the hair sample actually did not belong to her. Looking at VNTR locus 1, we can see that the victim's bands did not match the bands of the hair sample. Looking at VNTR locus 2, we see that the victim's bands match the hair sample bands. However, since they don't match in both loci, we can confirm Ruby is not a suspect and she did not accidentally misplace her own bracelet. Now looking at suspect 1, we can see that his bands perfectly match up with the hair sample bands at VNTR locus 1. However, at VNTR locus 2, his bands do not match the hair sample. Since suspect 1's bands do not match at both loci, he is not the thief. Therefore, we know that Tommy is innocent. Moving on to suspect 2, we can see that suspect 2's DNA bands match the hair sample bands at VNTR locus 1, and they also match the hair sample bands at VNTR locus 2. Since suspect 2's bands exactly match the hair sample bands at both VNTR loci, we can conclude that Mr. Giggles is the thief. But let's investigate suspect 3 and 4 just to be sure. Suspect 3's bands do not match up with the hair sample bands at VNTR locus 1, and so we can declare Barbara Bear as being innocent. Once we have ruled them out from being a suspect at one locus, they are still not a suspect even if they match at another locus. This is once again true because suspect 3's bands do not match the hair sample bands at both loci. Lastly, we will also investigate suspect 4. Suspect 4's bands perfectly match the hair sample bands at VNTR locus 1. However, her bands do not match up with the hair sample bands at VNTR locus 2. Therefore, we can conclude that Miss Candace is also innocent. During the midst of this investigation, Ruby the bunny also noticed that Miss Candace and Tommy look alike, and she then remembered how Miss Candace told her how she got separated from her son a long time ago during a terrible storm. To her delight, the officer was able to confirm that Miss Candace is actually the mother of Tommy. We know this because suspect 1 and suspect 4 have at least one band in common at both loci, and we can see that this doesn't occur with any of the other suspects. The officer then informed Miss Candace, who was overjoyed about finally finding her long-lost son. In the end, the diamond bracelet was found and returned back to Ruby. Meanwhile, Mr. Giggles was arrested and put in jail.